Which of the following is true about pet purchases in New York? Or pet ownership? A. Horse ownership is banned. B. New Yorkers cannot own pet rats. Or C. The retail sale of dogs is banned. Keep listening to Formosa Fauna to find out which is true and which two are false. Spend the next 20 minutes feeding your brain with Formosa Fauna so you can become smarter than all of your friends. Every Friday is Formosa Fauna Friday. Hello, I'm Tristan, the voice of Formosa Fauna. I love animals and I love talking about them. If you're even remotely curious about the animal kingdom, you've come to the right place. On today's agenda, we're going to talk about around 1,500 beagles being removed from Ridglan Farms in Wisconsin, New York's ban on the retail sale of certain animals, and 4 pygmy killer whales rescued in New Taipei City, as well as fishers near Chiayi County accidentally catching a 200-kilogram sea turtle. Let's dive right in. Before we get to the Taiwan-specific stories, there are major developments around the world we need to briefly touch on. 2 from the United States, starting with the beagles. About 1,500 beagles were removed from Ridglan Farms, a research facility, in quotations, research facility in Wisconsin last month. Rescue groups say the animals are now experiencing basic comforts many have never had, from walking on grass to drinking from bowls. ABC 7 Eyewitness News reported on this and quoted a very emotional interview with Northern California Beagle Rescue volunteer Wendy Lanston, who said, "I don't want to start crying again," and it was very emotional. Some of them were really quiet when we got in there. Some of them were happy, and the other ones were terrified. Some of these pups made the roughly 2,000-mile trip to San Francisco, arriving in the Bay Area, where they will be placed in homes in and around San Francisco, San Jose, Sacramento, and other communities. A bit of background regarding the beagles. Historically, according to Non-Human Rights, there have been approximately 2,000 beagles kept in cruel conditions at any given point in time at the puppy mill and biomedical facility located in Wisconsin. After months of advocacy from across the world by many organizations, and you could argue years of advocacy from these organizations, around 1,500 of those dogs finally were able to get to or are on their way to new homes, and several hundred remain. The facilities are windowless warehouses without access to the outdoors or natural light. The beagles are forced to spend their entire lives inside small metal crates that are stacked on top of one another. They're specifically used for breeding, with puppies being sold to biomedical research facilities across the United States. Violations at the facility allegedly date back to 2016, and in 2024, an animal activist organization formed a coalition with 2 others to bring this to court. As part of the evidence, one former employee testified that beagles at Ridglan were given a paralytic agent and subjected to frequent devocalization surgeries, where they removed the dog's vocal cords, a practice already strongly discouraged by the American Veterinary Medical Association, but these operations were done without anesthesia or pain relief. The list of inhumane conditions they subject the beagles to, and past tense and present tense, we're not too sure, it goes on and on. This list is endless. But the good news is the majority of the beagles have already left that life completely behind. That sad excuse for a life that they provided them with, they've left it behind, and the remaining dogs are awaiting their chance to leave next, reportedly. I'll keep you updated on further developments and what happens to the remaining approximately 500 dogs. New York's ban on the retail sale of dogs, cats, and rabbits is now fully in effect, marking one of the most significant animal welfare policy shifts in the United States in recent years. The law, known as the Puppy Mill Pipeline Act, was signed by Governor Kathy Hochul and passed with broad bipartisan support in 2022 before taking effect in 2024. It makes New York the 6th state in the U.S. to prohibit the sale of dogs and cats in pet stores, and it also includes rabbits in its protections. The law aims to disrupt commercial breeding supply chains that animal welfare groups say are often linked to large-scale puppy mills, where animals are bred in confined conditions and sold through brokers and retail outlets. Under the statute, pet stores can no longer sell dogs, cats, or rabbits, but they are allowed to partner with shelters and rescue organizations to host adoption events. The law does not affect responsible breeders who sell directly to the public or prevent shelters from placing animals in homes. The New York City Health Department has reiterated that the city's roughly 24 licensed pet stores must comply, and it has warned that inspections and fines may be issued for violations. Officials have also encouraged residents to report illegal sales through their hotline or state-enforced channels. In 2026, the policy framework was further reinforced in New York City under Mayor Zoran Mamdani, whose administration advanced additional city-level implementation measures aligned with this state ban. The local action focuses on tightening enforcement procedures, improving coordination with animal welfare agencies, and expanding adoption partnerships with city shelters. The goal, according to city officials, is to ensure that retail spaces previously used for live animal sales are fully transitioned into adoption and rescue-focused models rather than commercial sales environments. Animal welfare advocates have long supported the ban, arguing that pet store animals frequently originate from large-scale commercial breeding operations, often referred to as puppy mills. These facilities are widely criticized for prioritizing profit over animal welfare, with breeding animals sometimes kept in crowded or inadequate conditions and sold through complex networks of brokers and transporters before reaching retail stores. Supporters say the law helps cut off demand for these systems. Officials and advocacy groups are also continuing to promote adoption as the primary pathway for families seeking pets. Organizations such as Animal Care Centers of New York City operate shelters across the city and report thousands of animals available for adoption each year. City leaders have repeatedly emphasized that the shift away from retail pet sales is intended to both improve animal welfare and reduce shelter overcrowding by increasing adoption rates. Several other states, including California, Illinois, Maryland, Maine, and Washington, along with hundreds of local jurisdictions, have enacted similar restrictions in recent years. Supporters of these measures say they reflect a growing consensus that retail pet sales linked to large-scale commercial breeding are incompatible with modern animal welfare standards. As enforcement continues, officials say the focus is now on compliance, public awareness, and expanding adoption infrastructure, ensuring that pet acquisition in New York moves further away from retail sales and towards the shelters, rescues, and transparent direct breeding channels. I will say, having volunteered for a no-kill advocacy club where we just helped out a bunch of no-kill shelters in Nebraska during college, all of them, every single one will tell you that there's absolutely no need to purchase a dog or cat. There's just absolutely no need. What would that serve you? You can get it for free or next to nothing. When you adopt from a shelter, usually they'll charge you a couple $100 US, right? And that's just to cover their costs. But and it's also sort of to make sure that you do have some sort of financial, stability. Although a couple $100 really doesn't prove anything, but it also just prevents people from adopting the dog to do bad things with the dogs. So anyway, there are so many beautiful, healthy, young or not young, just amazing animals in these shelters, and it's so unnecessary with the crowding right now. That's so unnecessary to breed them for the purpose of selling them. I could go on and on about why you do not need a specific breed dog and why actually mixed like dogs and cats are healthier and sometimes smarter. and will cost you less in the long term because they're healthier. But even if you are just so set in your ways and you're just like, I absolutely 10,000% need a German Shepherd or something, right? A specific breed. Guess what? Good news. There are shelters and there are rescues out there that do have those dogs. And some of them will rescue, for example, German Shepherds specifically. So you really do not need to buy them. Period. Four pygmy killer whales were rescued in New Taipei City after becoming stranded on a beach beneath the Danjiang Bridge, prompting a large-scale overnight response by coastal and wildlife authorities, as reported on by Sean Scanlon with Taiwan News. The animals were discovered May 5th in the afternoon, according to reports cited by CNA. All four whales were initially assessed as stable when rescuers arrived. However, deteriorating weather conditions, including heavy rain and the risks of operating at night, led officials to move the animals to the Badouzi Conservation Center in Geelong for monitoring before any attempt to return them to the ocean. The Coast Guard was alerted at around 1 p.m. and quickly deployed a 30-member rescue team. Personnel from the Ocean Conservation Administration, the New Taipei City Animal Protection Office, and the Taiwan Cetacean Society also joined the operation. During the rescue effort, teams repeatedly poured seawater over the whales to keep them moist and protect them from heat exposure. They also repositioned the animals to ensure their blowholes remained clear and monitored their vital signs throughout the operation. Each of the pygmy killer whales measured about 2.2 meters in length. Officials reported that the animals had injuries consistent with cookie-cutter shark bites, as well as barnacle growth and whale lice infestations. According to the Taiwan Cetacean Society Secretary General, the presence of barnacles and whale lice, organisms that typically attach to slower or weakened marine animals, suggested that at least some of the whales were already in poor physical condition. 3 of the 4 animals showed these signs. Following veterinary evaluation, the whales were transported for overnight care and continued observation. Authorities plan to assess their recovery before releasing them back into the sea by boat. Fishers operating in the Taiwan Strait near Chiayi County accidentally caught a 200-kilogram sea turtle, prompting a response from Taiwan's Coast Guard Administration, which later confirmed the animal was a protected leatherback sea turtle. According to authorities, the turtle was brought to shore and examined by experts from the Ocean Conservation Administration, the National Museum of Marine Biology and Aquarium, and the local Department of Agriculture, as reported on by Matthew Strong with Taiwan News. After assessment, officials determined the animal's injuries were minor and that it was fit to be released back into the ocean. The Coast Guard said this case marked the first recorded instance since 2018 in which a leatherback sea turtle had been accidentally caught in fishing operations and then immediately released. Leatherbacks are among the largest species of sea turtles in the world and are rarely seen in the Taiwan Strait, as they typically inhabit deeper ocean waters, according to reports cited by CNA. Authorities also used the incident to remind fishers to report accidental catches of protected species by calling the 118 hotline. They emphasized that quick reporting and cooperation can help ensure the survival of rare marine animals and support broader ocean conservation efforts. Now, when we're talking about large, we really, really mean large here. Do you remember how much I said it weighed? Yeah, 200 kilograms. How much is that in pounds for our American folk? Let's find out. In pounds, 200 kilograms is about 441 pounds. That's incredible for one leatherback sea turtle. World Animal News reported late last year that the U.S. Senate had voted to cut funding for the Department of Defense's cruel dog and cat experiments through the passage of the 2026 Defense Policy Bill. The measure cleared the upper chamber with broad bipartisan support in a 77-20 vote following passage by the U.S. House of Representatives. It was signed into law, making the watchdog group White Coat Waste the first ever to defund the Department of Defense's dog and cat experimentation, and it marks the first time in history the Department of Defense's dog and cat testing has been fully defunded. Congresswoman Nancy Mace, a Republican from South Carolina, stated, "We work alongside White Coat Waste to secure this landmark provision in the FY26 National Defense Authorization Act, which bans the Department of War from funding experiments on dogs and cats. There is no justification for subjecting pets to cruel experiments, and this common sense reform puts it to an end. This reform would not have been possible without White Coat Waste's rigorous oversight and commitment to exposing abuse funded by American taxpayers." End quote. Senator Joni Ernst, a Republican from Iowa, said in a statement, "It is indefensible to waste tax dollars designed to boost our national security on cruel and pointless experiments on cats and dogs. Our furry friends and the American people will be safer with defense dollars that protect our homeland instead of funding nonsense pseudoscience." End quote. Congressman Don Davis, a Democrat from North Carolina, said, "Research and testing methods involving dogs and cats are outdated. We must adopt more scientific approaches to improve lives. Standing against cruelty to animals is a universal value that everyone should support, regardless of political views." Now, again, this was passed with strong bipartisan support. Those are some quotes from both sides. But it was actually, it was cleared by a 77-20 vote. But honestly, that does seems a little strange. Like, there should have been nobody voting against it. But let's just say that's because there's something else in the bill that people were not in agreement with. Large numbers of migratory birds have gathered at Xiangshan Wetland in Hsinchu as they prepare for their annual northward migration, drawing attention from birdwatchers and conservation observers. Hsinchu, if you don't know, is around northern Taiwan. It's sort of northwestern Taiwan. According to local reports, including this one from Sean Scanlon with Taiwan News, the wetland area has recently seen an influx of species that typically pass through Taiwan during seasonal migration. Among them are black-faced spoonbills, which are often associated with the region's coastal habits and are closely monitored due to their conservation status. At the beginning of today's episode, I asked you which of the following is true about pets in New York. The options were A, horse ownership is banned, B, New Yorkers cannot own pet rats, or C, the retail sale of dogs is banned. Now, if you weren't up to date with the news, you may have thought, oh, it can be C. Maybe you thought it was B because New Yorkers don't like rats. But actually the answer is C. So horse ownership is completely fine in New York. New Yorkers can own pet rats if they feel so inclined to. And the only one that is not true on this, or that is true on this list, is that the retail sale of dogs is banned. So there you have it. Making it to the end of an episode makes you a Formosa Fauna friend. Thank you for tuning in, friend. See you next time for Formosa Fauna Fridays here on Radio Taiwan International.